Welcome to episode 76 of the Hoopsfix Podcast with me, your host, Sam Neater, full-time British basketball advocate. And on this week's show, we've got none other than Paul Douglas, aka Dougie, synonymous with basketball in Birmingham, but also the North East. As you're hearing this, he's kind of been adopted by the North East because of his large part of his career. But he was a 13-year pro and has now got over 20 years experience coaching, not just in national leagues and academies, but also doing his own thing, his own entrepreneurial thing on the side with sessions through All City Basketball. And he actually just announced last week that he was going to be stepping away from Aston Manor Academy, where he's been, I think, for the last 4 or 5 years, to take the plunge into doing his own thing full time. So, super exciting period. We didn't spend as much time as I would have planned to on his own individual career and talking about his story, because we spent a fair bit of time talking about basketball in Birmingham in general, and then tied into his whole his own story. Obviously, he was involved with the Birmingham Knights franchise. He was involved with the Birmingham Panthers franchise, and he was involved with the Birmingham Bullets as a junior, the first professional franchise in Birmingham. So, a wealth of experience that I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure you will too. Before we get into the show, as always, please take 2 seconds to check out our Patreon account, patreon.com/HOOPSFIX. There you can sign up to give us a monthly or annual contribution of as much or as little as you'd like to help us do the work that we're doing. We cannot do it without your support. Please go and check it out and consider making a contribution. As always, let me know in the comments what you think on YouTube, what you think about what Dougie had to say and about basketball in Birmingham in general. And if you want to reach out to me privately, you can hit me up on my email address, sam@hoopsfix.com, or you can reach me on every single social media platform @hoopsfix. Anyway, that is enough from me. Here is this week's show with Paul Dougie Douglas. Dougie, welcome to the show.
All right, how you doing, Sam? All good?
All good.
Nice to be on.
So, there is a ton of stuff to go into, both historical and present day. I normally go back to the start to begin with, but I did obviously see, I think it was just last week that you announced that you were leaving Aston Manor to focus on some of your own projects, which surprised me. So, can you kind of talk about kind of what's going on there? What made you to decide to make that jump?
Well, there was a few things. I mean, after going through the academies for a couple of decades, I didn't really want to get back into it, and I got approached by an old teammate called Dave Brown, who's head of sport at Aston Manor. Said that we're going to be starting an academy, and he came to me and he said, could you give me a hand? So it's kind of a favour sort of thing, right, to help him set it up and all the rest of that sort of stuff. And then this year, with the workload and the things I would have been asked to do and all the rest of that sort of stuff, you know me, Sam, man, I'll help anybody when it comes to basketball, right? You know what I mean? I'm kind of like a free spirit that way. But I look back on the reasons why I came back to Birmingham and left sport development in Nottingham and said, am I actually doing the things that I personally want to do? And those really took a backseat. So I made it was a tough decision. It wasn't an easy one. It was a tough decision. And I said, you know what, right? There's some things that are really close to my heart. So things that I really want to do for the basketball community, for the community in Birmingham and people around the country. And we'll converse on a regular. And I thought, you know what, right? It's time to put my money where my mouth is again. And, see how it takes each other to take the leap of faith and do it that way. So it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? But generally, that's the reason. I thought that it's time for me to make the move and concentrate on the things that are dear to me.
So what are you going to be focusing on? Is that going to be all your projects with All City Ball?
Yeah, it's there's a few things. There's I don't know if you heard that. I started something called the 300 Club, which is like a weekly shooting session, which it helps me with my creativity. I'm quite creative like that, right? So I spend a few days looking at what happened in the NBA and the EuroLeague and those moves, and I said, right, I'll create something around that, something to keep the players engaged in the session. Because in all due respect, man, like I said, I used to play, so you can't just do the same stuff over and over again. Is what going to keep you engaged? So extend that. But probably the biggest thing is the camps and the clinics and the events. But I'm going to launch a program called Building the Athlete. And I spoke to some people who used to play for me when they were younger. Some people I've connected over the time. And I've got together a team of people who's I've got a sports therapist, strength conditioning and nutritionist guy. I've got a sports psychologist or teacher sports psychology. And myself, I think I'm good enough to take care of the technical and tactical side of it. So we cover the technical, the tactical, the physical, the mental, and nutrition side of what an athlete needs to be in basketball, right? So I've partnered up with a few people. I'm just going through dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but I'll be launching an app later this month, right? Which is there, it's subscription based, but it's there for anybody. Don't care who you are, what level you're at, right? You can access what I have, because unfortunately Birmingham's not London, so you just don't have that mass of players that can come to a particular. Birmingham's a little bit different that way, and I have a lot of people saying that, no, I'd like to come down and use your shoot machine, I'd like to come down and do the 300 club, but the distance is an issue. So I thought, looking at what's been happening in the lockdown, Zoom wasn't working for me. I did a little bit of research, and funny enough, I had this idea back in 2001, right? But the technology just wasn't there, because my background is athletics. I was really big. It was athletics or basketball, which I was going to do. And they ended up doing a session outdoors in the rain. And I thought, nah, I'm going to basketball, man. This is crazy. I'm not doing that, right? So I know the best athletes, their coaches are not normally in the same place as they are, and they meet up once in a while. So I've written a few things down back in 2000, 2001. I've never forgotten what it is, and now technology and the timing is right to put together. Yeah, so I'm just going through a couple of logos. Got a group meeting with everybody, put together like some videos and some other stuff, pilot it through for an app, and then launch it at the end of the month.
Well, I was going to say, like, at the moment, with everything that has obviously happened over the last 6 months or so, it almost feels like this is the opposite time to be jumping out on your own, and people want that sort of the longer term security of whether it's an academy job or whatever else. Like, I know for me, being self-employed, the last 6 months has definitely been more challenging than it would be if I was employed. Does that not make you a little bit nervous, or do you feel like actually, with the way things are going, like you were saying, with the technological advances and what people can access now, is actually the perfect opportunity rather than a bad time?
I tick over at the end of the day, right? I tick over, right? So if it goes pear-shaped, right, I've got enough to survive in what I do on a day-to-day basis. But, I've never been the person that's ever been shy of being out of work, Sam. You know what I mean? There's always something that's good. If need be, I know I can be a mentor in the school, a mentor in the program. The things of, accessing funding to do certain things. I come from a sports development background, right? So for me personally, it's maybe a couple of months, maybe 3-4 months, right, of, okay, there's nothing going out there, to how they will then adapt and evolve to what's out there I can actually tap myself into. But I believe it will work. Whether or not it's an absolute, like, I need to bring more people in because this is crazy, or it's something that just ticks over. For me, it's everything that I've always done has always started off small and has eventually got bigger and bigger. So I understand time. I understand growth. I understand, it's big things come from small seeds, right? So, for me, I believe in it. And yes, it is tough, right? But as you know, I've never been short confidence, right? So,
Yeah.
you've got to believe that it will work, right? I think I've got a good product, right? But it's not the only thing. I'll be doing my camps and my clinics, and I've got I started something a couple of summers back called the All City Touring Club touring team, and it's based on my time with Midnight Madness, right? And it's like the people who don't get the normal exposure. If you think you're good enough, I will try and create a similar platform. There's nothing to be on the same scale as Midnight Madness. I mean, that was freaking unbelievable. But Dougie's a little long version of it, right? So I can get people, work with them in the summer holidays, bring my team of people, work in the aspects I know that they're really lacking, help them try through my contacts and other people, see if they can maybe get some work abroad or work in the UK. and just meet together on a regular basis, but do it properly. Just do it absolutely properly. You know, that you've got to register. You've got to, if you miss a registration, tough. It's actually you miss it for next time. So, you know what we're like, man. It's like, you know, oh yeah, I'll make that phone call. I'm not that guy. I'm sorry you missed it. Try next year. You know what I mean? It's just everything that my over the years. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, is that we're not prepared. Players are just not prepared. They do not understand the industry they're going into. They are not prepared for some of the things that they have to do and expected to do. And I just feel that part of what I can do is to give back. And that giving back, right, if it's not money, if it's not kit, if it's not this, it's my knowledge. And, you know, and I was never, I wouldn't say I was a great player. I was decent, but, you know, I was around great players. And I always listened. And I always paid attention. And I think that's my greatest gift, right? Is that I kind of aware what goes on in the room. And I try not to speak too much. As much as I know I like to talk. In a room, I know my place, right? And if someone knows more than I do, I listen, right? And I always ask questions, you know, like, so why would you want this? If I could do anything, could I do this? Blah, blah, blah. So just having a few conversations with a friend of mine, Des, right? I just said, you know what, let's try and do the touring team. So I'll invest more money into that as and when I get more money into developing a decent touring team, so we can maybe do some training camps abroad. Definitely do some training camps in the UK at the Lighthouse where I'm based, and you know, just try and give the people, kids and younger play up to about 24, 25, the real opportunity to get this inside my mind and the people I know around me. Like, so a good example was a kid came to me last week and he goes, you know, I was speaking to Carl Brown and I was thinking about trying to go over to Leicester Warriors. Like, hold on, give me the phone. Yo, Carl, I got a cut. And he's taking about, no, I know a few people, right? So, you know, it's a good kid, right? So I got no problem making that phone call, you know. So it's just stuff like that. So I made sure he's in the room when I talked about him to say, so he knew that, you know, you've got to act a certain way, you've got to be a certain way. Otherwise, you know, like Carl, just cut him off if he's not doing that. So I like to keep it real that way. But that's it. Is I like to have control of my own destiny moving to the future, but I'll still be helping people behind the scenes. I'll still be doing a lot of stuff, right? And one other thing, I really got into video analysis, right? So I've got some video analysis software. So part and parcel of what I'm doing with building the athlete is, if say it's you, Sam, you know, you're like, listen, I got trouble with my shot. Can I send you a video? And I'll send you a video. I'll analyze it, kick it back to you, right? And then say, okay, work on these drills. I can send you drills, or I can send you some practices, or if it's just advice. It's a two-way thing via text messaging. It's really cool. It's really, really cool.
That sounds exciting. I wish you all the best with it, of course. One of the things you mentioned there, which I was going to get onto way later in the conversation, but I feel like seeing as we've touched upon it, was just Birmingham basketball in general. You know, when I think of basketball in that area, you're one of the names that is synonymous with it, and of course are very involved and have been involved, and I know you're very passionate about it. And you said there that sort of Birmingham is very different to London. You know, what do you think it is that I guess is different about Birmingham when you're comparing it to London and maybe other cities? And then if you were to sort of talk about the landscape and why things are like they are, what would you say about it?
It's a tough one, because I can be real controversial in what I could say. I'm not going to say, you know, they call me. I used to play with Kenny Nottage. I used to call Kenny the eternal diplomat, and I think I've taken on his mantle, right? You know what I mean? Because if we're in closed door, I'm going to tell you what I really think, right? You know what I mean? But in the public eye, but I'll try to put it in a way so it makes sense to everybody. Birmingham is very fractured, right? But I think the biggest issue with Birmingham is that we always go back to how it used to be, right? You know, when it was Birmingham Bullets, we had this, we had that, blah, blah, blah. Back in the day in the juniors, we had this, we had that. Well, okay, let's be honest about this. I'm a ex-Birmingham Bullet junior, right? So there was only 2 National League teams in the whole of the West Midlands, more or less, okay? It was Birmingham Bullets, and there was a team in Sandwell that came later on, right? So you either, if you were good, if you were the best, you play for Birmingham Bullets. If you didn't make the Birmingham Bullet team, you went over to Samuel, right? That was it. There's not. Now you've got City of Birmingham, Team Birmingham, and I think there's a team over in Stourbridge. There's Bromsgrove, there's West Brom, right? There's so many teams, and I understand that because as time goes on, right? Within them programs, and I know this, right, because I started the basketball program in the Northeast when there's no junior stuff, right? So you're very protective of your own creation. I created that. You want to see it grow as big as you can. And, there are people that have worked with other coaches, other programs, then split off and start their own program, and then can be very protective about that. So you end up having little dots of it all around. And I'm not saying that those clubs are not ran great. I send kids all over. When the kids say to me, which club should I go to? I'm like, okay, where do you live? Right, what you're looking for. I think this is a good fit for you. I think you probably won't like that one because the way the distance or the way the coaching style is, blah, 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 blah. And I think that for Birmingham, it tends to be, what is the best version for it to be successful. And I think, I found this out with Birmingham Knights, right? As soon as there's one overarching organization, all of a sudden you start asking for things like, well, you shouldn't be asking for that. You should be saying, okay, we're going to support you. What's the best way for you to support? And I don't think we have that. It's real hard with the personalities of the people at each one of those organizations to come together as one and say, okay, we want the city to be good. We want the city to be the shining light. I think that's what the major issue is, because there's, like, so when I grew up, right, there was, I've told this story so many times, I played for England under-17s and couldn't make my junior national league team. It was that strong. It's crazy. That is unheard of, right? There was two of us, and I was playing under Humflong at the time, right, God rest his soul. And it was just too strong. You just couldn't make the team. You had the likes of Kevin Penny, George Branch, all those guys right in front. When they said under-18 men, under-19 men, they meant men. All right, where's your birth certificate? Because you ain't no under-19. What are you eating for breakfast? Like rocks, And I'm some skinny little kid, right, who's quite talented. You don't have that now. And I'm a great believer in the old African proverb or saying where it takes a village to raise a child. It's very rare that you get one player comes all the way through for a program. They'll dip off, they'll try something, they'll come back. And we just need to, as a city, we just need to embrace the fact that a player is going to go on several journeys before it comes to a finished article. And, like I say, back in the day, I came from Birmingham, went to Newcastle. You got Dave Brown, went to Solent. You got Mike Landell, came back and went to Birmingham, went to Leicester, went to Derby. Dave Harris went to Manchester, to Calderdale. Steve Nelson went to Worthing, went to Newcastle. Martin Henlon, right, went to London Towers. There was and those are the players of my generation. We don't even talk about the players of the generations before me and after me. So Birmingham produced so many players and still do to a certain degree. I don't look at it as a club. I look at it as, as a whole entity that we produce through various contact with other coaches and programs. And unfortunately, we can't quite get the fact that we need to consolidate certain things to be able to move forward. Right, and I get it, I understand it, but it's like sometimes you got to think of what's your long-term ambition, what's your long-term goal. It's sort of like, the thing with, like, say, basketball England. What's your long-term goal, right? Is it to grow as many kids as possible to play the game, or is it to have a better standing in Europe in regards to the quality of your players? And for me, that's the one thing I'm learning. Okay, what's your end outcome, and then work back. If it's a case of you want to be the best club in the city and you want to become a professional club, okay, fair enough, I get that, right? But aim for that and then work back. And I know there's a few clubs that are thinking like that, but at some point you think we'll go to another club and say, okay, can we amalgamate? This is what we're trying to do. And you've got to put all your stuff aside to say, okay, this is the bigger picture. I'll go another way. You got Birmingham University, beautiful facility, right? I mean, absolutely beautiful facility. Why is there only like 50 and 100 seats? I mean, for me, that's short-sightedness, right? You would have, if you could put that up to maybe about 3,000 seats, right, with the hall, just change the design, how much more could you actually bring into the city in regard to events, right? It's just, I'm not going to say that we are short-mindedness or short-sighted. It's just that, you know, I feel like when people say like second city, and I'm like, I ain't second to anybody, right? I don't live in a second city. I live in Birmingham, right? We're a big city, right? I mean, second city game, my backside, it ain't second city, right? Okay, let's aim to be first. And for me, that's around the people that I've been lucky to be associated with, right? Second don't come into it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, we want to be here. Let's work back to say, again, let's put the pieces in. So we're too fractioned as a city in regards to our programs, and we need to come together as a whole and say, you know, this is what we would like as a city, and we're willing to talk to everybody. But the characters, and it just doesn't work. Not really.
I was going to say, when you talk about sort of consolidating and stuff, one of the things that I've probably changed my mind over the years, and particularly from speaking to Paul Blake, is just the fact that we actually need more clubs. You know, that's what's going to provide more opportunities for players coming through. Is like, in a lot of places there just isn't enough places to play, and by having those places, you're then going to create an environment where there's more players coming through and stuff like that. Do you think it's a case of not necessarily, you know, all the clubs that exist joining and becoming one, but in the sense of saying, okay, this is going to be the club that's focused on, if you're elite, like, this is where you go. Like, kind of each one having a defined role within it, so kind of everyone knows where they fit into the system? Or do you think actually, you know, it's a case of, no, they do need to all come together under one banner and then work together to somehow push things forward, which, as you've said, is a very difficult thing to do when you've got so many different conflicting personalities with different agendas?
No, I agree with you. In the first point, I think you need to find out where you are within the system. Within you, you know, like if one club is very good at developing younger players, then that's your role, right? I don't believe that, if you know, well, probably is probably the wrong phrase, using consolidate the whole lot together, right? But it's kind of like developing a department, like the pyramid, right? So like you say, that one club is the top, everybody accepts that because they have the infrastructure and the way it works, and you just work your way back down. Just know where you are in the place. But you know, I mean, I've had this conversation like around the table with people at the club, right? You know what I mean, with clubs, and it didn't go down too well. We're talking about, God, but that was my stint with Birmingham Panthers. So we're looking at 2006, 2007, when I used to travel over from Nottingham to Birmingham for the meetings and then go back to Nottingham. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, who wants to be top dog? Right, come on now. Like, I mean, everybody wants to be top dog, but I think that my time with my journeys in Europe and playing in Europe, not playing teams, right, but you know, playing in tournaments and that in Europe and listen to people, is that community feel, right? So, you know, if I'm working with my little program I run at the Lighthouse, right, and the other stuff that I do, I should be so proud that one of my players would go through to the next stage and play National League at this level, or go and play for the first team at this level. You know, that's how I fit into it. Right, you know, that's what I believe, that if everybody can say, okay, you're going to be the head coach of this particular program. We've all said agree with that. These are our assistants. That's the elite. That's the performance angle, right? Let's go through the participation side of it right now. These guys do this. You play in this. You do that. Here's our angles. And just that's what I mean probably by consolidate. Exactly what you're saying. Know your role and do that the best as you can. Right, knowing that we all have a common goal, that we all want to see that team that represents our city, right, doing the best it can. And again, that's going to be tough because there's a lot of personal. This is what I've always found, right, over the years, right. Coaches win games, they think they're good, right. You win games, you think you're good. Well, listen, people can say to me, "Well, Doug, what have you done lately?" I've done nothing lately, right. The last thing I've won, right, was the box 1A with University of Birmingham, right? And that was a great that team. Now that team there, next to my lot in Middlesborough, that is the most talented team I've had, right? I mean that team was tough, right? But at the end of the day, man, it's like you got to like make a decision on where you want to be and where you want to fit in. That's what it is for me. It can't be the ego of, I want to be the head of that. No, I want to be the good. And I want to talk around saying, this is Birmingham basketball. We are tough, because back in the day, it's like, no London man's come up to Birmingham and think they're coming and beating us. Like, you know what I mean? And the same vice versa, Birmingham, the Birmingham guys, you know what I mean? And then when you're meeting afterwards, right, it's such respect, for each other. No beef, no nothing. It was just good, old-fashioned, hard battles. It seems like we're having a battle amongst ourselves in here, man. It's just crazy. It's kind of imploding.
Is this where potentially you think that not having a pro club in Birmingham really hurts the rest of the sport? Because ultimately you don't, like, if there was a pro club, well, it's clear this is the top dog now. Like, they're at the top of the tree. Everything else has got to then work out, but sort of where it fits in below it. But because there isn't a franchise and hasn't been for, what 6 years was Birmingham Knights when I think, 6 years. That's kind of what's allowed it to sort of end up carrying on playing out like it has been.
Yeah, I was 100% on that, right? Because there isn't, I think, first and foremost, there's no established BBL club, professional club. I mean, to have a new club come in, you're going to go through all the same problems as before, right? Okay, back in the day, Birmingham Bullet, this team or that team failed and blah, 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 and all the rest of that malarkey, right? Okay, but if you've got an established, like, professional club, right, that makes a huge difference. Because, I had, when they had the Foot Locker Hoops store open up in Birmingham, I got a phone call. Like you said, most happens with, it's coming to Birmingham, you give Dougie a call, Dougie tell you straight, right? So I speak to somebody and then said, we've who is it now? Worcester Wolves, right? Worcester Wolves being the nearest BBL team, obviously the Birmingham people, I said, they don't go down to Worcester. Worcester might as well be in the moon. You don't understand. We ain't like that in Birmingham. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, although it's there, that's a 30, people would rather drive to Leicester than drive to Worcester. Because Worcester is a trek, right? Leicester just like, okay, just M6, boom, you're straight there, right? So, but to not have it on your doorstep, I mean, even when we were in Solihull, which is kind of classed as Birmingham, right? You're right in the outskirts, right? Even for some people, it's a trek to go there, right? Which is half-hour drive in traffic, right? Maybe 45 minutes on a bus. That was a trek, right? Don't like to try that, right? So having the ability to come down and watch professionals train, speak to professional players, be around that environment is massive. I understand how important that is as a young player growing up. Just hearing about Carl Tatham passing away the other day, kind of really upset me, right? Because I ain't gonna lie, people ask me who was my idol, man. I kind of forgot. Carl Tatham was my idol. I used to sit down and watch him and go and model my game on him, watch him train, the consummate professional, like all the rest of that stuff. That's not there. That is not there. And even whether it's from if I take it back again, at 14, I went to Coventry with my PE teacher, Mr. Bundup, and we saw Team Fiat play in Coventry Sports Centre. And you can imagine back in those days, man, there's smoke all over the place. People are smoking tabs. And this is all I can remember. I'm standing on the balcony with these massive beams, and I'm looking through the beams, and I'm seeing the smoke, and I'm seeing them playing, and I'm like, I want to be a basketball player. And that was the defining what I want to do that, right? And yes, I get there are players who out there will see something around Birmingham, but it's not the same influence, you know what I mean? And at that time, I didn't know how much people were getting paid or how professional it was. I just wanted to know, I want to play in front of 2,000 people, right, in an environment like that, right? That's my dream, okay? And you're not going to get that here. I mean, hell, you're lucky you get 150 people at a game in Birmingham, right? And it's a travesty, really, at the end of the day. And I'm not saying that they don't have the ambitions to go forward, right? But it's not as easy as saying, I want to be a professional team, I want to be a Division 1 team, and then work your way up, because, damn it, every other club that you play against has the same ambitions, right? So it's not an easy process, but you have to understand time that it's going to take you to get there, and make sure that everything you put in is helping you get towards the end product, which is either being in Division 1, right, or being a professional club. And then establish it. So as bad as it sounds, Birmingham Bullet is on a little blot in the back memory, and we're talking about what this club is now doing and what they're trying to achieve and all the rest of that.
Do you think, has there been, the BBL's been quite clear about the fact that they want to expand, and Birmingham's one of the most obvious places that they would love a franchise. Do you know of any groups or people that are trying to make that happen anytime soon? Do you think we could see a BBL franchise in Birmingham, anytime soon?
Yeah, well, I can't mention any names, right? But I've had maybe 2-3 phone calls from people saying, how do you think it would be? What's the chances of it being established in the club? And I always say the same thing. Yeah, it'd be great, but if you're not coming here with any money, forget it. You got to come here with money. I mean, I don't want to speak bad about Birmingham Knights. I mean, let's say that the experiment flopped. Hey, listen, I was a flop. I didn't win a game. Golly, how do I not win a game, right? But hey, it's the way it goes, right? But you can't come in and I've got a budget, right? I'm not going to say what the budget is, right? Because I'm kind of embarrassed, right? But let's just say I remember playing against a team and one player had my budget.
Wow.
One player had my budget. And I'm not, and I know people behind that scene work their arse off to try and make it work, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't work, right? And one of the headlines I remember reading, it said, Coach Douglas, right, with Birmingham Knights, has to try and make water into wine. And I was like, he couldn't have written that statement any better, right? Any better. Because if you're not going to come in, and as bad as it seems, it kind of goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier on, okay? I'm coming with some money, right? Some money, right? And we're going to do this. And if you're not going to fall in line, we're just going to create our own. We don't want to create our own, right? We want to engulf this. We want to encompass everybody and say, know where you are. But if you're not, I'm going to do this, right? And I think it has to be that hard man approach, because if it's softy, right, then I think people take advantage of that. And I've been in them conversations, Sam, right? And it's drawn out. It's never. I would, being quite a diplomatic person, I would change my tact and say, we're going to do this. Are you in or you're out? That's how I'd be. You're in, you're out. Okay, if you're in, this is how we're going to help you. If you're out, can't help you. But you can come back in if you want to. And when you realise the error of your ways, right? But this is how it has to be. Because if you come in half-assed, I swear that ain't going to work. And I've seen it with Panthers, and I've seen it with Birmingham Knights.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm not just saying this because maybe that was my old style of coaching, right? You do as I say or else. I just think that seeing both sides or seeing how it works, the last two professional clubs, I think you've got to come in knowing that money is not an issue, right? Okay, we've got backing. We're not going to be trying to go out there and find the money. We've got our own backers. Yes, we want more sponsors coming in, but we've got that sorted out. That's not an issue. Now, this is our plan. We'd like you to buy in. And if you're not, it's sort of like a hostile takeover. If you ain't, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. But trust me, if you're not involved, you are not going to like what's going on, right? We'd rather have you in, right? And I think if you keep your own autonomy as who you are as a club, right, then it's all good, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than me coming in and saying, no, you're going to have to act this way. I want to be under the umbrella, but keep doing what you're doing. But everybody understands, like you said, this is where you fit into the. Although if it's not going like that, right, it ain't working. I think I'll stake my reputation. No, my reputation. Something my reputation ain't working, right? But I'll stake. I'll tell you what. I'll stake my most prized possession, right? My ID Air Force Ones I got when I was in Lakers. That was my most prized possession I've ever been put on my feet. I'll stake those. Right, it will not work.
Yeah, I was going to say that the stuff you're saying, it reminds me the first podcast I did with Martin Henlon. This was a few years ago, and we were talking about British basketball rather than basketball, particularly in Birmingham. But the headline that the title we ended up going with was the British basketball needs to be a dictatorship, and it needs to basically say, this is the direction we're going. You either jump on board and you're with us and we're going to make it happen, or you get left behind. And I think, whether it's in Birmingham or whether it's the sport as a whole, having that clear direction, the leadership at the top just saying this is where we're going, is something that is, massively necessary. Just quickly on the Birmingham Knights, just for context of people, because my memory of it, this was like back in 2011, I think, was when the franchise was first announced. And then there was these, 2-3 years that passed where it was like, are they going to enter this season? And it was Oakland's consultancy, I think, was the group that were kind of behind it. And of course, it didn't end up happening until 2013. I remember there were just countless problems with the venue. That was one of the biggest issues, trying to get somewhere to actually play with enough seats and everything else. But I guess from your standpoint, like, what are the biggest lessons, for anyone that was trying to set up a BBL franchise, and you were to say, okay, these are the things that you need to make sure before you go in, these are the things that you got to have taken care of, what do you think those are?
Right, well, I'll say number one, make sure you got some money. Because unfortunately, what you say, money talks, right? Money definitely talks. And you've got to secure a venue, right? Because, at the 11th hour when we had Doug Ellis at Birmingham City University, we had that, bought the seats. All of a sudden, it was like, we don't want those seats in the venue. We don't. It's like every excuse that was on the book not to have us in there, right, was just out. And in the end, it was like, we're not having you, and that's it. Boom. Okay, so that's great. Where do you have a venue? And then you're literally bouncing around. Where is there anywhere in Birmingham? And is there anywhere in Birmingham that's big enough to hold a professional club? Should that conversation even be in there? That's not okay, right? So can we go to NIA, right, or the Barclay Academy? No. Can we go to NEC? No. Can we? Where else is there? I don't know. Like, what I mean? So we ended up going up to, was it North Solihull Sports Centre? And even I would say even that wasn't ideal, right? We had to put new markings on the floor, change the rings, change the backboards, do the whole thing to make it work, right? So you need money, you need a venue, right, for sure, and you need to hire people who are professionals in their particular field, right? I think that's the one thing I learned from that first year with with Newcastle Eagles, right? Like they had a team of people that were very good at what they did, right? So that you ain't got I've got to do like me now as my little old busy old city basketball, right? I've got to do the videos, do the marketing, do the publicity, speak to the people, speak to the parents. That can't work, right? It's like you've got to have people who are very good in their particular fields to create an organisation. Your job, your role is to do X, Y, and Z, and then need to take care of the marketing of your perception within the area itself, because the question is always going to come up. What was it? What they call it, spin doctor, right? He's the person that you come in there like, okay, so it's always been bad in the past. Why? Oh no, we're going to be different because they've got to be very charismatic. All that sort of thing, right? To then put it to the picture. But for me, they're the main things. The other stuff is here and there. What teams do: good schools program, good community program. Good relationship within the city itself, good relationship with local authorities, etc., etc. White to the white, as the saying goes. But if you ain't got money, if you ain't got a decent facility, which is struggling right now still, if you haven't got a good team of people right behind you who know what their role is, and I'm not saying that. Birmingham Knights didn't have that, because I thought the team, the people behind it, I will not have a bad word said about those people, because those people put their heart and soul into that game. It was just an experiment that went wrong. We all do that.
If they had the right people, where did it go wrong? Just not being able to raise the money they anticipate. Like, if you were to look at their business plan initially and saying, this is what we're going to do, this is the projections over the next 5 years or whatever it is, like, where did it fail?
I think that we just didn't get the sponsors in that we thought we would get.
Right. And that was a very similar story with the London City Royals. I know they anticipated having a ton of revenue from sponsorship, and it just never came. They were never able to raise it.
No, it does. Yeah, and like I said before, man, I learn a lot from watching. I've always been that person. You know, I think if you just go out into the city centre and just watch people, man, that's more entertaining than bloody EastEnders and bloody whatever on TV, right? You can learn a lot from that. But you know, it's like you said when you first did, you know, set up Hoopsfix and all the rest of that sort of stuff, right? You had a vision that I'll be able to do this, and this. It's that initial, yeah, we'll get it work, we'll get it done. The reality is, it's a lot harder than what it seems, right? And as much as you think that you have a product, they're going to go and convince somebody else to part with their money to come in that, right? That's a whole new story on that, right? So, you know, I'm in the office. I know what was done, right? I know how much work those people in, and I know how frustrating it was. And had the late night phone calls and the going in, and everybody put a brave face on. But you know, for me, that's the biggest reason, because even when I realised I had to make some changes, it was like, well, you're gonna have to go with that, Doug, right? Because there ain't no money, right? So, I mean, we had no money to start off with, but there ain't no money, right? So, you know, even that is having some sort of marketing plan, and especially now, man, with the, you know, Mr. COVID-19, right? It's going to be even tougher to people to part with their money now, even if you're a fan or you're a business. You know, it's so much harder it is now. But for me, if I was to put the one thing, I was like, nah, it's, you know, we just never got the support from businesses and surrounding organisations that would have helped it at least get a second year, maybe a third year, right? But the people in that organisation are just, they were just spot on. Just didn't work. I mean, we've all done that. The project just didn't work. For whatever reason, just didn't work.
So the big thing on the horizon for Birmingham is the Commonwealth Games in 2022. Of course, it's going to be 3-on-3 as opposed to the traditional 5-on-5 format. I don't know what exactly is going on the ground there. Do you feel like that has a potential to potentially bring things together, to change things for basketball in Birmingham, to drive things forward? Kind of what you're seeing now, do you see things starting to happen? Like, kind of what's your, I guess, gut feel about it?
Well, okay. I've seen a little bit, okay? But I'm going to make a statement now, and people can shout me down or not shout me down, right? Okay. You said it before, and I know it from things that come into Birmingham, right, in the past, right? Okay. I'm not exactly a person who's not experienced. I'm not exactly a person who hasn't been around the block a little bit, right? But no one's ever come and asked me what my thoughts are, right? Now, maybe they don't like the way I say it. Maybe because I'm not with a National League club or any particular club, that maybe my voice doesn't count, maybe is insignificant, right? But I guess I want to speak for the truth, right here now, right? Is that I think it's massive for Birmingham, right? In regards of what it could do for sport, okay? Not what it can do for the economy and all the rest of that stuff, but what it could do for sport. Now, my biggest bugbear of all the stuff that we have major events, right? We all talk about is what's the legacy? What happens when it's gone? Okay, I'm gonna put it down to when I went to LA with Midnight Madness, right? Okay, the story's quite long, right? But we walked into this facility, Sam, freaking, you know Jesse Boot?
Yeah.
I walked in, it was like that, right? Black floor, black everything, all done out, seating for 300 people, right? Just lovely, right? Once the event had finished, it was the 25th anniversary of the Air Force Ones. Once it had finished, all that they had in that hall got donated to a local boys club. Now that's yours. You take that. That's we come in here, take that. That can go on for the future, right? What doesn't Birmingham have, right? Let me go back to my time in Newcastle. So I left Newcastle in 2000, right? Went over to Middlesbrough. Then in 2000, there was 2 courts in Exhibition Park. There was another court just behind the hospital in the city centre, right, behind Eldham Square, right. But after you finish work, that's what everybody went to. Like if you want to go play basketball in the outdoor courts, on certain nights you went there. I had a session. I got some courts built up. Sorry, not courts. I had some rings put on the local court by me. Looking up, I worked for the council. It was quite easy, right? I had 2 rings put on there. On a Sunday, everybody's come down to there, right? I'm not saying I know everything that goes on in Birmingham, right? But I don't know where the court everybody goes down to, right? Where is the outdoor court? Where is our showcase facility? You can't tell me that. And I look at what you're trying to build. The outdoor courts are coming to other areas and all the rest of that. But I ain't saying there's nothing much, man. Listen, just come across, right? Screen the floor, right? Putting your markings on, putting your rings on, Bob's your uncle. I've had 3 conversations with people about how we want to come into Birmingham and we want to do this for the court, blah, 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 right? And for whatever reason, it's never quite hit off, right? And respect to those people even reaching out to me in the first place, right? Because I ain't got no affiliation to anybody. I don't care who it is. I just want what's best for the community. Hence why I've left Aston, because for me, it's what can I do to make basketball better and more accessible for the community? There are various venues where you could put 2 outdoor half courts, only have to be full court, 2 half, put seating on, right, and still have enough space to have a 5-a-side or something else. I mean, huge spaces right in the centre, 2 minutes from the M6, easy access from the motorway, easy access by car, easy access by train and by bus. I can't see what's happening, right? If there's going to be something that's going to come out of the Commonwealth Games for Birmingham, we've got to have a series of outdoor courts, right, where we can continue to play 3v3, not even 5v5. I mean, full court, 3v3, 4v4, establish it. And I have a little thing now, right, where I know, you put something about, you might put a 3v3 league in, right? Okay. You know what I said, okay? But I go to my session on a Thursday at the Lighthouse, and I just go ball out rules. Everybody knows exactly what it is. It's not even 3v3. I got ball out rules. Right? Look, I didn't want to.
Shout out Julius Joseph, man. Shout out Julius Joseph.
He's the man. He's the man, right? So for me, anyway, rant's over, right? If there's gonna be a legacy, right, there has to be something where we can access it on a permanent basis. But I think that the being in the middle of it, right, you can see the building of the motorways and the redoing of the motorways is having a major effect, right, within the city, because where we are in the Lighthouse is right smack halfway between where it is at Perry Bar, where the Alexander Stadium is, halfway to where the basketball is actually going to be played. Is it Millennium Park, or whatever it is from there? Right,
yeah,
we're smack back in the
name,
middle. So the roadworks are there crazy. I've even seen like a bigger increase on the amount of publicity and marketing going out about this. This is what we're doing, and the different sports and the rest of that, right? But as a whole, and I'm going to be absolutely honest here, as a whole, as momentum, right, from the people that I see on a day-to-day basis, right, they don't know much about it. Mm. Right. So if you're in a National League club, fine, right? And I think that's what the issue is. We assume that there's so many people that play National League or playing clubs, right? But there must be at least treble that amount who don't, who just play for fun, right? Who do not want to get involved in the club. They just want to go and access a facility or access somewhere to go play outdoors, right? And I know that going to the ball out finals, and you're seeing that down there. I mean, every major city should have one of those, hands down, right? So I think there should be people who know what they're talking about, people who have a history, people who can actually give some solid input. And I think that's what the issue is. It shouldn't always just be one particular outfit, or you should have okay, let me take it back. I've sat on a housing committee, right, about what's going to be happening with the Commonwealth Games. and there's experts from everybody there, right? Why can't that be with the basketball? Why does it have to be one particular thing, right? I choose not to be involved in the National League program, right? I choose to, right? Probably because, or most definitely because, since Birmingham Knights, I can't even enjoy my weekends by myself. So I get to spend time with the family. You know how crazy it gets, right?
Yeah.
Spend time with the family, and I enjoy going around to different clubs and watch what it is, right? So I choose not to be involved in National League clubs, but that doesn't mean to say that my expertise, right, is not a case in here. That's why you don't know who I am, right? But if I'm another club, I'm not going to turn and say I'll get Dougie involved. Why would you, right? But at the end of the day, right, is that okay? What are your thoughts? My thoughts are this. Even if it's just the one time, my thoughts are this: love them or leave them. Right, get on with your job, right? But purely from a community point of view, which is what the Commonwealth Games is about, really, right? You know, how's the community going to benefit, right, from basketball 3v3, which I think is great, right? And I like it as a product, right? How's the basketball community going to benefit once it's gone? It can't be the same. We can't make the same mistakes as last time.
I don't know if this might be completely way off, but am I right in thinking that the venue is going to be temporarily constructed for specifically for the games rather than being a permanent thing?
Because I think that's the way I take it, right? Because where it is, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. If where they having it, right? If that was permanent, I'm like, I'm down there every weekend. I'm taking Nipper down there. You know what I mean? Because it'd be a great venue to go to, right? It'd be a great place to go to, right? But we have to have some. I mean, maybe in Birmingham, London's a bit different, right? Because there's loads of little cities, right? But there's if you're in this area, you go to here. If you're in this area, you go to here. You know, this is where the ball is being played. Blah blah blah. You know, I know there are areas in Birmingham where a lot of basketball is outdoor basketball is being played. Just around the corner from me, there's kids traveling from Warsaw's about 15 miles. We'll travel down to play basketball, and I know on a Sunday it's chocker. It's like, if everyone's playing football, get off, right? Football is not allowed. It's right behind his housing estate. It's huge, like that. But I think you've got to be in the know to know that. I only know that because I drive past it, to go to pick up my son, right? But there's got to be a central venue, right? Somewhere in and around Birmingham, right? The centre of Birmingham, which is like, this is where we're going to go to ball, right? And I'm not talking about some little painted up court. I'm like, no. Make it pocket, right? Make it. Come on now, like, let's go. Make it. I went to Venice Beach, man. Where's that little bench, rows of seats? Where's that little seats? Where the coloured court will rest at both sides. So we can put good events on outside. We could do all that sort of stuff. I used to run a 3-3 tournament in the centre of Nottingham, right? In the square. Right, I know how popular it is when you're just playing and people around watching. Sitting down at lunchtime having their little melon, whatever it is, right? Their little Darjeeling tea or whatever it is, right? Sit down watching the basketball with the kids. You know what I mean? I know how good it is, right? So, the impact of what that will have in the basketball community, well, you'll get even more kids, and that's what I mean. You get even more kids who then be inspired to go and play and train a little bit more, right? To then go on this team. You never know who that person's going to be. Who's going to be inspired just by watching the older kids play on the court. It really is, and I think there might be missing one there.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see some more plans coming together. There have been rumours of potential. I know that I've had a few conversations with people that were talking about potentially trying to do something in Birmingham, especially with the run up to the Commonwealth Games. But yeah, at the moment, I don't think there's anything set in stone. So we'll see what happens over the coming it's a year. There's a couple of years, year and a half ish. So there's a bit of time still. So we've gone into the depths of Birmingham basketball. Let's just talk about you a little bit more now. Let's do the rewind. Go back into the history books and just start with kind of your initial exposure to the game and actually how you first started playing basketball.
Well, it was it's interesting. You know what I mean, man? I'm full of stories, right? So I mean, I was man. I don't put it bluntly, man. I was doo-doo. I was terrible. I was more or less 5'10", 5'9", 5'10" as a year 7, right? I was quick as I ran 11.9 for 100 meters, right, as a year 7, right, more or less the fastest kid in Birmingham. When I was a year 8, stroke year 9, I'm jumping like 195 high jump, right. But I couldn't play a lick, mate. Right, first year, I remember the first game almost took me about 10 attempts. I don't remember the whole game. I just remember this one aspect, right? It was 10 attempts, shoot, rebound, put it in, 2 points, first game. And I tell this story all the time, right? So I might as well tell it to your listeners and your viewers. I was just sitting in metalwork, and the teacher comes across and he goes, you got a project. You can do a toolbox. I don't know, you can make whatever it is you make, right? He goes, not them days, Douglas, what are you making? And I went, basketball ring, sir. He's like, basketball ring? And I did not know where the hell that came from, and I just blurted it out, considering I was so rubbish. I blurted it out, right? And I made this basketball ring. It was set at an angle like that. It wasn't even 90 degrees. It was set like that, right? It wasn't a complete circle. I got a C- for it. Okay, but my dad was never really into. My dad wanted me to either do cricket or boxing, right? He was not into this basketball. What is basketball business? Why, you know what I mean? It wasn't even interested. But he let me put the ring on the outdoor on the wall, right? And I kid you not, whatever my teacher told me, Mr. Bundock, right? I don't know where he is now, right? But he had a huge influence on me in basketball-wise, because he obviously knew what he was talking about. I don't know what standard he was, but now I know he knew what he was talking about, right? And I used to go outside, I used to practice my shooting, whatever it is, all the time. So I went from being the worst guy on the team to year 8 being the best player on the team, scoring like 30 odd a game, to year 9 being voted the best player in Birmingham, right? To then making England U15s and the 17s, what have you. I went to Albert Schweitzer with Carl Brown, Dave Brown, all that, right? Had some really good experiences, met some really good people. So kind of like snowballed on from there. But I was really into the athlete. I was just a very, very, very good, your typical inner city kid, right? Black kids, always good, fast, quick, all that sort of jump. That was me. I was that good, but I was a bit of a troublemaker, though. I was always letting my mouth get into trouble, right? You blink, you look at me the wrong way, I'm ready for a fight. So I also had that. Okay, you said let's still talk. They're always angry, them kids. They're always angry. So I was angry. I was angry. I always wanted to play. I always wanted to fight, but I just loved the game. And I used to go on a Friday. Shout out to Pete Mintoff. He used to run a session at the BAI on a Friday. And we used to go down there, and he used to teach us these moves and let us play. And these are the days where, you couldn't watch NBA on TV. There's none of that, no videos. And he used to have these basketball posters. And every time if he taught a move, and every time you did that move and scored, you get a poster. So you get everybody coming down, telling you a jump step, shot fake, step through. Everybody trying to got the poster, because it's the only way you're going to do with basketball. So, we used to go there on a Friday, and then eventually, I can't remember how it happened. I ended up going to Birmingham Bullets with Dave Fisher, right? And just training with them, and that's when it took off. Because then and in my generation, there was Ken Scott, Mike Landell, Tony Penny, God rest his soul. Gary Smith was just below us. Dave Brown, and above us was Clive Watson, God rest his soul, Kevin Penny, George Branch, Paul Tennant. These are dudes, man. These are like how I'm built now. I'm like, yo. and they used to keep us straight. So anytime anybody used to mess about, no, you're not doing that. So my first view of what it takes to be physically better and all the rest of that, right, came through watching them guys at Birmingham Bullets, the year, 2 years above me, because we used to watch them train beforehand, and then we go train, right? So, when we copied moves, we copied what they did rather than what we saw on TV. So, that was my first major introduction. Oh, sorry, and the joke is, you couldn't do this now. So I used to get guys to come to my school, way outside the school gates, and go, "Are you Dougie?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can you come play for my club?" Right? And you couldn't do that now, did you? You could not do that now. So, I lost count the amount of times people used to do that, right? So what happened was a guy called Dave Slade came across. He refereed for a little while, a club called Holyhead in Handsworth. And he asked me, and I said, if my dad says yes, then yes. We went to my house. My dad says, you pick him up from the house, you drop him off at the house, he's ready to go. He said, yeah, that was it. And this was at 14. So I'm playing men's local league at 14, right? Training with my school team, training with Birmingham Bullets juniors, right? And all that at 14 years of age. So, and in that team, we had half of the Birmingham Bullets players above me, ex-Birmingham Bullet players, ex-England and GB internationals, ex-referees. Everybody was in that, right? It was literally like a sponge. I got so much information pushed at me. And all of us, it was me, Mike Landell, Ken Scott, Dave Brown, oh God, it was Paul Brown. Paul Brown could play. Bloody hell, what a player he was. Right, we were all on the same team. So, and I used to get myself into trouble. I used to go up on the high street robbing and everything. And as soon as I'm telling you, I was a naughty kid, right? And as soon as I got together with that group there, that was it. That was my focus from there, right from there. And it was never about being a professional. It was about, if you're stepping on the court with us, boy, are we going to kick your ass, mate. Like, we're really going to murder you. And that's all that we wanted to be. We just wanted the best players and just smash anybody that came onto the court, no matter where you were from. And training, oh my life, training was war. Training was war. That's the only thing I don't see nowadays, right? Training, when we went 5v5, you pay money to go watch that play. Especially when you see Ken Scott coming out. Right, there's no way on earth anyone's going to try and block that. And he get his chest above the rim. You know, he had, Ken Scott could jump, boy. Lord my life. Anyway, yeah, that was how it started.
You know, you said that the kind of the aspiration wasn't necessarily professional. It was just focusing on beating who's in front of you and the sort of the competitive side of things. At what point did it switch to kind of this is what you want to pursue and have a career out of it?
I think it's when I got cut from Birmingham Bullets at 19, right? I played my rookie year because them days, if you were 19 after, if you was 19 before December 31st, you couldn't get an extra. You couldn't play that year, right? But if you was 19 in the following year, the second half of the season, you could actually play that season. So you'd have people in the same year group at school, right? One could play and one couldn't play. So, you know, some of my friends were playing for Birmingham Bullets juniors, my teammates, and I was playing for the seniors. I was one of only two players who went all the way up from the junior system up into the seniors, right? But I think it was when I got cut then, and I played in a central league game, I think it was, right? I was playing for Pete Mintoff, and we played against Loughborough University, and I think I was still 19, but I hit 55 in that game. Right, yeah, I hit 55 in that game. I missed an elbow jump shot to win it, right? And literally a couple of days later, I got a phone call from Gary Smith, right? And he goes, I'm in Newcastle, right? And the coach is looking for a player who can score. And I'm like, I just scored 55. I can score, right? You know what I mean? So I goes up there, right? And I swear I couldn't hit the side of a bar, mate. I could not make. I was missing layups. So I was so nervous. But one thing we always got taught in with Dave Fisher, right, is you got to play D. So I could jump a little bit back in them days, right? So I got a couple of steals, right, a couple of bangs, right, you know, trying to rip the rim off, right, you know, I'm here sort of thing. And God rest his soul, Tony Hansen thought this is enough for me and signed me. And then being involved around that, I mean, I'll be honest with you now. I went from my professional contract, right, it's probably more than what some guys are getting now, right, but my professional contract was a £32 a month bus pass, right, and a free pair of Adidas. That's what I got at Birmingham Bullets at 19, right? And I went to Gateshead, right? And I got as much Adidas as I wanted, but I got £250 a week, right? So this ended up being 2 weeks after my 20th birthday, and I think from then being around it, right, and watching everybody, and I was like, you know, I kind of like how this is. And I hardly ever came back to Birmingham because we had access to a court whenever we wanted, access to weight facilities. Not that I ever lifted weights, I kind of dabbled. You know, as you're doing your young, nah, I'll go play, right? And I just, it just kind of snowballed on from then, and the more and more I got involved because Sunderland was just around the corner, and obviously, you know, watching Russ Saunders play basketball in Birmingham, and then I go up to Newcastle, and he's 10 miles away in Sunderland, right? You know what I mean? It's like it's weird, and you know, I played basketball with against as kids with Steve Nelson, and he ended up being my teammate in 1990, and Steve Bucknall in under 15s, again my teammate in 1990 with Sunderland. So it's funny how I used to watch what's his name, Peter Scattenbury, when he played for Bracknell, and he's my teammate. You know, so it's as you get higher up the level, you know, the game gets the circuit gets a lot smaller, right? Yeah. So, but when I moved up there, I was 85. I really decided that, you know, right, I could get into this a little bit more.
I was going to say, you kind of ended up, you know, even though sort of now, like I said at the start, you're very much synonymous with Birmingham. You were very much adopted by the Northeast, you know, and I've heard you talk about that for, you know, you were there for what, 20 years in the end, like around that sort of area. What do you think kept you there rather than sort of dotting around and stuff?
Well, first of all, I got married, so that was the first thing. You know, as it got right, the plan was to go to Gateshead. I always say Newcastle because most people know where Gateshead is, right?
Yeah.
So I went to Newcastle, and how it happens is like, so I'm going to try and go down and play for Brunel or Brixton. That was my thing, right? And then everybody, when that season finished, everybody left, and I'm left by myself. So the first thing I thought, you know, you had Cat Johnson, God bless his soul, Curtis Xavier, Gary Smith, Tony Hansen, Sam Ellis. Oh God, all those guys, they all left. I mean, Cat never played. Cat played for the original Newcastle team, which played in Eldon Square, right? I forgot what they were called, Newcastle, whatever. I can't remember what they were called, right? But there was Gateshead and there was Newcastle, and there was literally, you know, how it is like mile and a half apart, maybe two, right, from centre to centre, right? And Gary went down to, Cat went down to Calderdale and took half the team with him. So I'm like, I must be rubbish or something because no one's asked me, right? And that I swear to God, that lit a torch under my backside. I was like, I'll show him, right? And it wasn't until he came back because Cat was really cool. Every time Cat came back to Newcastle, Gateshead, right? And he used to always call me Dave Harris, Buck, right? They always used to look me up. They always used to come and find me and we used to have a chat, right? And then he said to us, he goes, oh, we never took you because we knew you were kind of settled in Gateshead. I was like, oh, I thought you guys thought I was rubbish. You know what I mean? But I used to put the work in, right? You know, so, but that was it. Then I got married in 1990. And then just from there, I became more established there. At the time, it's like, and I actually worked as well. I worked for sports development. So the job itself was full-time, but they also allowed me to play full-time. So I had the best of both worlds. So it's like, well, if I'm going to go somewhere else, right, and you're going to give what I'm giving here, I might as well stay. But I swear I had access to gyms, I had access to the courts, I had access to wherever I needed to become good at it. And also within my department, you had Stan Long, who trained Olympic athletes. We had Olympic runners, right? Steve Cram. I used to play for Steve Cram's Sunday football team on a slide, right? So I used to be all around these people, and I was just immersed. Because like I said, I do a lot by watching. So I used to, the first time I ever heard about creatine was from the athletes. You know, I was like, they always talk about creatine. I'm like, what's this creatine business? Right, that's a bit interesting. Tell me a little bit more. And then we had the rugby league guys. I used to hear about the academies and the rugby union and all that stuff. So for me, it made no sense going to play somewhere else when I was getting a lot of time. I was getting, anytime I wanted to practice, I was getting minutes, right? I was frustrated because I'm just that type of a person, you know what I mean? And the money was okay. Money was okay when I got paid for basketball, and the money was okay when I was getting paid for work. And I was established. You know what I mean? I count myself as an adopted Geordie leg. You know what I mean? I can understand. You can bring the deepest, broadest Geordie in here, and I'll understand every freaking word they say. I'm that entrenched.
So, this may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that you mentioned there you played with Bucknall at Sunderland. Was that the first year that he came back from his stint with the Lakers?
Yeah.
What was that like? Obviously, I would assume that you're aware that there was an English guy in the NBA, or had been in the NBA, and then he was coming back. Kind of, for people that weren't around in that period, can you talk about kind of what he was like as a player and how it was, for you guys to be playing alongside him?
Well, if I go back, people have said to me, right, who's the best junior players that you've been around and you played, right? And I'll go, right, well, I played with Steve Bucknall as under 15, man. He could play. There's no two ways about him. He was tough. Richard Midgley, boy, he could play. Luol Deng, right? He's nice, right? Those are the three that I would definitely say in my era, in my time of seeing face to face. Those guys could flat out on different level. But Steve was like, Steve. He might curse me out for saying this, right? Steve wasn't a great shooter, right? But he was great at influencing the game. He would. Everybody has that. Everybody has the opportunity to be a bit hot when they shoot, right? But he would influence the game on like a small version of LeBron, I guess, right? Not the similar type of game, but he'd rebound well, he'd shoot well, he'd play great defense, right? He's a great leader. He was very vocal. He made sense. Like when he talked, I'm a guy. Especially when I played. If you're chatting fart in my ear, mate, I ain't listening. That's the city boy in me coming out, right? Man, smooth, man. What are you talking about? That's rubbish. You know what I mean? But he'd say something and you'd listen. Same with Scants. They talk. I'm like, I go back to like hearing Mr. Bunda. Okay, let's go. Like, you know what I mean? These people know more than I do. But he was quite dynamic. I remember, I got to tell you this, right? I forget who we played. It might have been Thames Valley, right? And Steve's coming down on the sideline, right? And the thing is, at Crow Tree, right, as one thing I say about Dave Elkin and Sunderland, right? The gym was always packed. Like you'd have like 1,000, 1,500 people at every game, but regardless who we were playing, how bad we were, always there. Right? That was a good year anyway. Anyway, he's coming down the sideline, right? Just crosses the halfway line, pulls up like he's got a hamstring like that, pulls up like this, right? Everybody stops. Man, he carries on dribbling, man, takes off, cocks it back and dunks it, right, and runs past their bench and goes, ah. You know what? For me, this is the middle of the game, man. For me, that summed up Steve, right? He just summed up Steve. He was fun to be around. He had a massive impact on the court, and generally wherever he went, right, he kind of raised the level of the people around him, right? And I was lucky that year because there was a lot of good players around who all had a similar impact. It's just that in them days, right, the stuff that happened off the court and money, like I say, you've got to have professional people in. Otherwise, them days of doing it for love, they're gone, man. They're gone. You can't do that anymore, right? So, him coming over from Lakers, right? That was huge. I was like, damn, Steve. Right, so yeah,
big.
You can play a little bit.
The kind of when you look back on sort of your best individual seasons or your standout kind of years as a pro, kind of which ones are they, and sort of what are the standout memories, I guess?
Well, I think the biggest one, right, was we played when I was playing Division 1, and we played Brixton. And Brixton, we always had, when I was at Gateshead, and we always had battles against Brixton. I mean, I love playing Brixton. To me, it was like going on, right? Because let's not be no bones about it, man. The Northeast is kind of pale, right? Do you know what? Latte people like myself.
Do you know what? I saw a photo. I think someone shared it in the English Basketball History group, which it's you and I think it's you with Gateshead, and you're the only black player on the team.
Yeah, that was it. I was the only black guy who worked for the council. It was like that. But see, the thing is, for me, like that never ever bothered me, right? Because If I tell you one thing about the Geordies, they love their sport, and I couldn't go anywhere, right? We bought a house, right? My flat. We bought a flat. Me and my girlfriend, who became to my wife, we bought a flat, and we must have viewed 6-7 flats, right? And I think maybe 5 of those, they either came to watch me play, I taught them in keep fit, right? Or I taught their kids at school. Everywhere you go, it was like, Dougie man. Yeah, read Dougie. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy, right? We played Gates. We were playing Brixton, and we had 3 seconds. In the days, if you're fouled in the act, if you fouled in the act of shooting, if you got fouled and you were in team trouble, I think it was 18 fouls at the time, something like that. You had a choice between shooting a free throw, a 1-and-1, or you make the first one, you get the second, or you take it sideline out of bounds. And me always being like I'm trying to think, right? I said, I'll take it out of bounds. We're up by 1. Right, I take the ball out of bounds. I look to make the pass. I turn around. I see our player wide open. I make a pass. Jason Smith pops out of nowhere, catches it, drives it, scores. We lose by 1. 3 seconds left. I'm absolutely gutted. And then, funny enough, as it happens, we play Brixton in the final of the Coca-Cola Cup in Gateshead, same season. There's a big, dirty netball tournament going on. So you've got about 1,000, something like 1,000 women, all in fancy dress, right, sitting in the stands, right, on National Cup Day, and I have 25 at half time. I go off, like, to try and make up for it, right? And we win the cup, blah, blah, blah. That's all great. That's one good memory. The other ones, we played Derby. I had my high school. I had 40 against Derby. Yeah, that was a big game. And I think not long, maybe about a week or so after that, I'm going through teletext on the TV, right? You know, as you do. Remember the days?
Teletext, yeah.
Go Google that, right? I'm going through teletext, and I click on the results, right? And it's got England team announced, and I goes down there, and my bloody name's there. I'm like, wow, right? So I'm in England squad, and it's funny enough, right? I said to myself, I'm going to take a picture of this because somewhere someone's not going to believe me, and this is how I found out. So I took a picture of it, and somewhere at my mum's house, there's this picture of the screen, a little Sony box TV, with it, and John Amici and Alan Cunningham were also on that first names on that squad, first time in that squad as well. So yeah, them, which is another one. I think those are the 2 big standouts, right, as a player. Because like I said, I was when I said this before in another podcast, right? When I got to 27, everything just made sense to me. I think, when you turn the ball over, it didn't bother me. I just got into the next play. Everything before that used to get really frustrated. But, when I thought I made it, right, there's 2 instances when I thought, well, okay, I belong in this league now. Is when the referees stopped calling me Paul and start calling me Dougie, right? That's when you know, right? The Dougie man, you can't. I'm like, you called me Dougie, all right? What's all right? So I'm gonna stop cursing you now, all right? And when I think we played Leicester, and I spoke to Buck Dave Harris afterwards, right? And he goes, yeah, man, we went a triangle and 2 on you and Ross, because we knew. I was like, oh, okay. It's right. Because I could shoot a little bit. I was very streaky, right? And but once I got hot, right, I'd make all sorts of rubbish, right? I'm not saying they're great shots because they weren't great shots, right? But once I get hot, I used to just shoot the ball a little bit, right? And I think the first game as Newcastle Comets back in Gateshead, went back to Gateshead. I've got a picture of that somewhere. We played Hemel. I remember I had 26 and 6 threes and player of the game, gone back to it, all started right from there. That was real interesting. But those 3, you know what, right? I was a bit of a knucklehead. I caused a lot of problems for people, right? But I wouldn't give it for anything in the world, man. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Are any of your games on YouTube?
I wish, mate.
Really?
I'll tell you what. There's the one that I've been trying to find for years. And if someone's out there, right, please send it to me, because my oldest son, Michael, right, does not remember me playing, even though I used to be at the games. He used to be at Newcastle Eagles on the court when we used to go in for the team talk before the games. He was only about 5 at the time. He'd be hitting threes, right? I kid you not. He'd be hitting threes in front of this big dirty crowd, and they'd be going like, yay, yay, and he'd be like hitting these threes. And then as soon as the game started, he'd get the pom-poms, he'd be messing with the cheerleaders, right? He's going to hate me for saying that, but it's the truth, right? But the game that we played was against Sheffield Sharks. He went to triple overtime. It was the first year of Newcastle Eagles with Tom Hancock as coach. And it was 3 seconds left. We had a jump ball. Mike New, right, got told to tip the ball back to our basket. It was only 5 basket. And to Chris Fight. He tipped it back to Chris Fight. Todd Cawthorne jumped in the way, stole it, made the layup, got fouled, made the free throw, goes into overtime. I haven't played a minute yet, right? We then get into, I think it's about a minute into the game, someone else fouls out, and we had Ralph Blaylock, and bloody hell could he play, right? So you have Ralph Blaylock on there, right? Then I comes on. So I played the whole 50th triple overtime in minutes, right? I went from the hero to the villain all in one go. So we get and if everybody knows me at that time, right, you know, I love to shoot threes, but Tom Hancock had me shook, right? He had me shook. And we ran a flex cut. I came off on the baseline. There's a couple of seconds left in the first period of overtime. I shoots a shot, goes in, next period of overtime, bang, right? And the whole time I was going, in my head, I was going, yeah, Dougie. The whole time I was thinking to myself, man, I should have stepped back and hit that three. We'd be out of here. Because the ball came in, hit the back of the rim, rattled like that and went in. I was like, if I took a step like that, was swished it, man. Like, and them days, I'm like, I don't miss them threes, you know what I mean? And then I remember coming down and I saw, was it Ian McKinney was there, and I saw John Paul Heron, he's calling Fishy, and I apologise to him now, right? Because I don't think I've ever told him this. I saw him in the corner of my eye, and I was like, should I give it to him for a layup? And I was like, nah, the Rook's going to mess it up, right? So I came back, I went to fake a free, I went to drive past Ian McKinney, and he fucking ripped me, didn't he? Right? So it kills me. Anyway, right, so now if anybody finds that game, I want to be able to show that to my boy, warts and all, and show it to my 6-year-old, right? Because my 6-year-old goes like, Daddy, can we go to basketball school, right? So I want to show him that your dad used to play a little bit. Wasn't always as big as what he is now. He used to be in shape, right? So
need to dig up the archive footage.
Yeah.
I'm aware of time, and I do want to talk about your coaching stuff a bit. Most notably, Middlesbrough, because there was that was, maybe you can correct me, but it was one of the first academies, right? I feel like I briefly asked Lloyd Gardner, and he was saying he thinks that Durham might have been the first, East Durham.
No. The first was real undercover. That was with Curtis Xavier in Nottingham.
Okay.
Right.
Which one was that called? What was that called?
That's called SN Saffron Arts College.
Okay.
Right, SN. Right. My friend Des says that he did it beforehand.
Who's this? Des Williams.
Des Williams, right? Yeah. So, but it's I think that if you're looking, and I'm not going to argue with Des, right? Because he'll knock me out, right? So let's just say Des was one of the first ones. But the first one that I knew of, was Curtis, and I was quite in tune with what was going on at the time. And so Curtis had this, and then the year after, I had mine in this is 99. This is 99. So I had mine at Newcastle College. There was East Durham, and there was Curtis's at Saffron Arts College. Those are the three, right? That we could say was official basketball academies. And then what happened, right, is that I then moved over to Middlesbrough the following year, and took a few of the players with me, right? So we had at the time we had Michael Gale, Michael Minor. Oh God, who are the other two? Two guys from London. They'll slap me if they see this. Anyway,
at Middlesbrough.
No, so this is at
Newcastle.
Okay, Newcastle in 99. I then went over to Middlesbrough in 2000. Yeah, and and basically some of the players went with me, and that's when we got like Carl Latham Henry, Marlon Henry, William Mopez, Kuna Chara came in late. Yeah. Chris Bonton, because Chris Bonton came through my PDSD program as a 13, 14-year-old, so I've known Chris forever. So Chris then came over to Middlesbrough as well. And that's when I first met Creon. Me and Creon lived next door. Creon was my assistant coach. He did the under-18s. I did the under-20s. And we just went over there. So at the time, there was only three. There was only three at the time. I think the following year, Manchester had some sort of an academy after that, right? But that was it. In that period. That was really, it was only us that was around doing that on a full-time basis.
And that Middlesbrough team obviously made some waves, right? I'm sure. I feel like that was a group that you did quite well at senior level, which must have been one of the earlier teams as well to be playing in senior competitions as basically a junior team. Yeah.
I'll give you my reasoning behind this, right? It kind of went like this. I always believe, like I said, my teacher, Mr. Bundock, right, knew exactly what he was doing, right? So if you can say that me as a year 8, right, teacher says you guys are too good to play in year 8, and you're going to play in year 9, right? Year 8 will do nothing for you. Go play in the year 9 league. Get yourself beat up a little bit. We ended up finishing 3rd in that league in Birmingham. Birmingham then had school league was like boom, like really, really tough. So I've never forgotten that, right? So we had the crew, and I'm like, man, we're going to kill everybody in the under 20 junior league, man. This is a waste of time. This is what we're going to do. We're going to play men's, right? We're going to play. I think it was Division 3 at the time. We're going to play in the men's division, right? And then if you're as good as you think you are, we'll play the National Cup and we'll win the National Cup, right? So I want to hear that. On them days, I'm like 3 years out from playing, right? I'm playing very much on mine. I was like, I don't want to hear no chops. I don't chat no far. If you're as good as you think you are, bring it. Otherwise, shut up. Like, because you get like all those guys from London, the banter from London, from Birmingham, from Manchester, from Newcastle. The banter was absolutely out of this world, right? So I used to just try and keep them all in check. It was like trying to keep a herd of horses, man. Everybody's darting over the fence, whatever it is. Anyway, listen, at some point, I'll tell you some stories that used to happen, right? But I can't tell you online, right? Because I felt like a flipping the head teacher, right? Trying to keep everybody in check. Well, anyway, so we did that, right? And I remember we didn't have a good start at all. And we lost our first 3 games. And then I sat down and I had a big heart-to-heart with him, right? And I said, you guys haven't done anything. You haven't won anything. Yeah, you play for England, you do this, but yeah, so what? What have you won? What have you won? What have you actually done? I came at them. And then we went on a 16-game winning streak. And this is in the men's division. We were caning everybody, right? And for me, the biggest the biggest thing I can always take away from all of my coaching career was like this. And I hope this recognises not what I did, what the team did, right? We played Norfolk University on a Saturday night and beat them by 65. These men's, right? I had an average age for about 17 and a half, 18, right? Beat by 65. Sam, there were 30 up going into the 4th quarter and put on a freaking show, mate. The ball didn't touch the floor. The ball did not touch the floor. Yeah, Keith Jarrett came up as well. Keith did a hell of a job as well. And then we got straight after that game, we drove straight down to Nottingham, right? And we went to play in the under-20 national finals against London Towers. And I would say straight out, we smacked them by 28 in the final, right? I don't know if Kieran got the MVP or anything, but we smacked them up in the final, right? Then 4 hours later, right, the same team played in the trophy final, played against Bristol, right, and lost by 15. Right, now you tell me where any team can play 3 games in 3 games, 2 games in 2 days, right? And we only lost it. We might have lost that game, right? But the guys ran out of steam, right? But that, I mean, for me, that achievement there, right, is unheard of. Like this and all. No, it ain't no different team. It ain't nothing like that. That same under-20 team right there had a 3-hour rest. We're back on the court to play in another final. That doesn't happen, right? So then we finished 2nd in that league. We lose. I think while we was down there, Manchester Manchester beat somebody, and if they'd have lost it, and they won on a banked 3, right? If I remember hearing correctly, and if they'd have lost that game, we would have won Division 3 men's at that time. But then we went down and we played Bristol in the semi-finals of the playoffs, and Kieran, we had a practice game for him. Kieran Achara popped his ankle. Kinde Roberts popped his ankle in the game. Wayne Robinson popped his ankle in the game, and we ended up losing by 15 again, right? And at the time I was assistant coaching with Teesside. So, them guys, Teesside were just rolling over everybody. So we then go to Coventry to play with Teesside to play the playoff finals, the Champions Playoff Finals, and the Division 3 playoff finals was played before us. And you had Bristol versus Dudley at the time, right? And Dudley have only lost twice all year to us. And I still look back and I think to myself, it should have been Teesside Mohawks and Middlesbrough College Mohawks should be there on the same day playing it, because we knew we had them. But some of the basketball was played then. And funny enough, right, the year after, when like most of the guys went off to the States or whatever it is, I didn't have a great team. But we ended up making the under-20, and for some reason the college said we're not going to play men's, so we played the under-20s, and we just didn't have the talent before. But I think probably my better coaching job was getting those kids together, and we ended up losing to Waleed Mamouni and Steve Vere. I think it was who did he play? Who did he play for at the time?
There were juniors. There was Ealing. It was Ealing Tornadoes, right?
Ealing.
Yeah.
And so our biggest thing was Steve Vere, right? And I was like, in his arse, double team, all the rest of it. Do not let you get off, right? So anyway, if he goes up by 15, they bring him back in the first half. If he goes up by 15 in the second half, they bring him back. There's a few. I think it was either a point up or tied or whatever. I can't remember what it is now, right? But Waleed gets the ball on the 3.9. And I always tell my guys, don't jump on the fake. Do not jump on the fake, right? Shot fakes my guy. Takes off, drives right down the lane, on the buzzer. And the killer for all of that, right? We had the coaching staff in Duquesne was down there watching the game, right? And I remember them saying, like, that zone I played was illegal. I shouldn't have to play that zone. We had a really nice 1-3-1 trap in the Amoeba zone that used to just mess people up. No, sorry, not 1-3-1. A 1-2-1-1 half court Amoeba zone used to just, these guys played to perfection. So we were playing games. I was like, what do you want to do? Well, we want we call it arrow. We want arrow coach. We used to want it full court, half court, 3.9. Just kill teams with it. They just could never get around it for 2 years. Yeah, but that time there was really, really good time. Learned a lot. Because at that time, right, Sam, because there's no real full-time junior coaches, you kind of like learn as you went along. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I was still involved with the England U16s, right? So the experience of being in Europe, as well as what I learned as a player and all the rest of that, right? I just took all of that and said, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. Right? So it was good fun.
So I briefly spoke with Kieran Achara, and I asked him for any good stories, and he recapped at practice the craziest that he's ever seen you go. And I don't know whether you can remember this without me prompting, but you were trying to run a play and Keith Jarrett did something.
Oh, smack two backboards.
Tell us the story, because it sounds hilarious. I've never heard anything like it.
No. So we had Middlesbrough were good, man, because they put 2 new backboards on and 2 new rings. Right, they're real nice, right? Like you could, when you walk into a room, you can still smell the paint. Like you can still smell the freshness of the perspex on the backboard. So he comes up, right, and he I think we throw him an alley-oop or something. He goes up and I don't know if he dunked it or he misses it. Anyway, he holds on the ring, freaking ring, the backboard, like always like this, like a big Joker smile. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, because them days I used to go crazy. Right, it. That's no more dunks. That's it. We're done. Next freaking play down the other end. Guess what he does? And I remember he missed that one. The throws down that play does the same thing, same crap. in the backboard. I goes off. I goes absolutely up because I'm thinking, like, they're paying all this money. I'm going to get grief. But I'll tell you one thing, though. He had to be there. I'm surprised you got that right. I can tell you there's a lot more story. The time when I locked the gym and says, no one's getting out until you get peace of my mind. Like this, right? I was like this. No one's getting out. I had to then go and get the guy who's head of the estates came across, right, and he goes, your players were abusing our facilities. And so what about? He goes, well, you just had these backboards put on, you cracked the backboards. I'm like, well, actually, they're the wrong backboards and the wrong type. No. We played hexagonal for this, right? I said, do you understand physics? And he's like, yeah. Look at me like this. I says, okay, so that rim's 10 foot off the floor, right? This player's coming at approximately about 25 miles an hour, right? And he's about a foot above the rim, okay? Because he's telling me that the rim can take something like 200 and whatever pounds of force, right? And he's like, yeah. And I says, so is the force of him coming up at that speed, him being that height, and then moving the ball down that speed, does that equal 200 odd pounds of force? And he goes, I think we might have the wrong backboards, wrong rings. And I was like, you guys hold me, we got the replay. But yeah, that was that was it. We listen, Kieran, we had some jokes. We had and we used to do all the video analysis and stuff in the we used to go around to each player's house. I mean, the old VHS stick in there, right? And this and quite. It was so much because I'm only 35. I'm only 36, right? You know what I mean? I've literally just finished playing basketball. Right? I'm 36. These guys, so I see myself as not being much older than these guys. I find it hard to blur the lines between I'm your coach and over your friend because we used to go clubbing and the guys are there. How you doing, fellas? Like that sort of thing, right? So. With what I've learned is like that doesn't happen now. That coach is not at the. We can go to meals. We definitely go to the same clubs. Not that club anymore now. But yeah, there was some jokes there.
The other good Dougie story. Briefly spoke with Jamel and Jamel spoke to Kieran Wright as well to come back to me with any good Dougie stories that were. And they spoke. Well, there was two. They spoke about a tour in Wales that they loved because you had McDonald's every single meal. But the other story that was great was that supposedly with a team, I don't know which group it was at Nottingham, you made them go and shower because you said you need to talk to them. Whatever they came out, you gave them a talk. They're at practice, went and showered, came back to give them a talk, and then you made them all go change again, and then carried on practice again.
I don't remember that one.
Ah,
no, I don't remember that one. But it definitely sounded like something I would do.
Amazing.
It makes something I would definitely do. There's so many.
So the other thing I just want to quickly talk about before we finish. When I was looking at your CV, there's a few different things. One was the night Milfield camps and the ABC Adidas camps, which I've heard loads of people talk about, but I don't know a lot about. Like, kind of what were they and how do they work and why do they stop?
Oh man, it's huge. I mean, you talk about I don't know what was the biggest camp when you were growing up.
I mean, I don't even know. I wasn't really aware of the national stage. Like, so I grew up in Eastbourne, right? So the big camp for me down there was the Brighton Bears camp. Like, that was the one that everyone went to. But I've, obviously since I've been covering this, the Milfield stuff and the ABC one, I hear a lot of people speak about. Like, and yeah, I just don't know a lot about it.
Okay, well, I'll talk with the ABC ones, the Adidas ones to start it. Because it's funny, right? Because I did both. I did Adidas. Every summer I did Adidas and the Nike ones. Right? Yeah. And the Adidas ones, right, was probably the first lot I get because that's what I learned most of my coaching. There's no real coaching clinics, anything like that, right? The coaching staff down there were amazing. You got to see everybody from all over the place. We'd be talking to like 4, 5 o'clock in the morning about coaching systems, playing, all the rest of that, right? And then be on the floor at 7 o'clock, ready to take the next group ready to go. But the Adidas camp was basically 250 kids a week for, well, I know it started off, I went to the first one, which wasn't Adidas, and the second year, which was, and I think it started with like 2 weeks, then 3 weeks, then 4 weeks, then 5 weeks of the summer holidays, and you literally get 250 kids each week. Crazy. And the third week, When we talk unofficially, the third week of the ABC camps are all the best players went to, right? So I had a guy called James Nicholson. This plays probably one of the few names. He should be right up there, one of the best young talent, especially out in the North East, right? Flat out play, right? And a couple of guys, and it's like, okay, they come down. They need to come to week 3, because then you got everybody who's anybody came down to that week. The competition was off the charts.
Was it invite? Was it an invite-only camp? Or...
No, you had to pay. You had to pay, right?
But all the best players would come.
Yeah, but all the best. If you're going to pay to come, you need to come to week 3, right? You kept that open, and just the how's the best way to put it? ABC was very grimy, very street, very relaxed, very, city. It's kind of like very city. Well, I found Milfield very prim and proper, right? You had to do this, and you had to do that, and you had to do this, and you had to. But each had their own, best of best. I love the organisation at Milfield, right? Especially though you come. Okay, so I'll be at a Nike. I'll be at the ABC camp 1 week, right? I literally drive back up to Newcastle, right, and then drive straight down to Milfield, right? And that, right, which that's a hell of a drive, and but I remember playing Steve Nash 1-on-1 at Milfield, right? But then at the ABC camps, you had Kobe Bryant's dad was there when they were giving that free adidas stuff. You got Kobe's brand new shoes, the ABC journeys. I remember Ola being there. Midgley was there. Very young, if I'm correct, very young. Andrew Sullivan was there. And at the time, you didn't realise how many people actually won. It was like very much because I know Curtis, is run by Curtis Xavier. Curtis and Joe White were real tight because they played in the same England team together. Right? So they had a lot of the players just come up and down that way. But Milfield was very good in its own right. I know that's the reason with. Oh, sorry, and at the ABC camps was at Loughborough, right? When they had the free court facility. I forgot what it's called now. Well, the actual name of it. But that was Northern Lions on basketball. That was it. That was the first event that was held in there. Funny enough, right? The story I got for that was the staff was complaining there was black marks on the floor, and they were blaming the players. And it was like, no, players aren't playing that right. If they do a bit of research, ends up it's the referees not wearing basketball shoes, got black shoes marking up the floor. It's like, no, you better go apologise to those kids. I know the kids were doing nothing wrong. But yeah, I enjoyed both. I really did enjoy both. I think with Milfield, I think Nike pulled their sponsorship as they do. It goes around in circles. Nike pulled their sponsorship or scaled back, and I think with the Adidas one, I think the university wanted to take it all over and do it that way. And I always feel that when you take away the people, the extra who do it before, and you can do a better job, that's the first nail in the coffin. Let's just say academic leagues. But anyway, let's not talk about that too much, right? But I also the European All-Star Camp, the ABC, was at Loughborough with Tony Parker was there, and he had Pesic, the coach, and oh god, who was it? Who were the two NBA players? Is it Tyrone Thomas? Tyrone Thomas, I think, was there, and somebody, Jermaine O'Neal, as a rookie. I remember sitting down there, and you see it on TV. You could not write this. So there's a dunk competition going on, right? Everyone's getting ready to do the dunk competition. I've got my camera like this, right? Video recording it, right? Okay. Beep, 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 beep. Battery runs out. got nothing. Yeah, but yeah, Tony Parker was there. I forget which other NBA players were there, right? He was seeing those players as Tony Parker 14, right? But seeing those players there and seeing that level of competition with players around the world, you don't get to see that there now. And that was held at Loughborough, right? The European. They had everybody was down there. It was excellent. Them days, you didn't go to any other camp. Any other camp was inferior.
Yeah.
It was, you either went to Nike or you went to Adidas, or if you had money, you did both.
Then the final thing I just want to talk about before we wrap up was UK Elite basketball. Like so that, funnily enough, that was the first time I came across you. 2009 Street to Elite was one of the first events I filmed in Edmonton. I think it was Edmonton, somewhere like that. Yeah. But yeah, UK Elite, like that was I didn't realise that you were a co-founder of that and involved with that. So kind of what was the idea behind that, and kind of I guess talk about kind of what you did over those 2 years-ish that it ran, 2-3 years that it ran?
Yeah. Well, basically, right, I was approached, and it just so happened it was a conversation. Someone reached out to me, right, and we just got talking, right, and then it's the days of BlackBerry, right, so BlackBerry Messenger, hi, how you doing, all the rest of that sort of stuff, and Mike Baptiste, right, and we kind of like hit on a level. Obviously, he knew Joe and all the rest of that sort of stuff, right, and that was like the common link, and we got talking, and I've always been quite passionate about, I wouldn't say maybe vocal. I could probably have been a little bit more vocal about this, I think, in hindsight. But if you're in, our theory was, if you're in and around the national teams, your summer's taken care of. Right? You've got training, you've got competition, you've got that, blah, 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 right? But if you're not in that, your summer's dead. Really, where do you play? What competition do you do? Blah, 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 right? So, the conversation got more and more in depth, right? And what we decided to do was to create some way of finding the best of the not best, if you know what I'm saying, right? So the players were not deemed to be the best to go to the national teams. Who are the best are they? And what happened, right, is I came up with a combine series, right? So we had, I put together, I think it was 11 different disciplines with scores. I did a lot of research on this. I spoke to Chip Schaefer at Lakers about it. He was the director of player development. Rich Shoebrooks, I think it was global development at Nike. A couple of people in the EuroLeague, a couple of GB athletes, all the rest of that, because I wanted, like I said, my background is athletics. So I used to walk into the school gym, look at 100 meters, look at my time. Yeah, I'm good. I'm world class, right? This or national class, or now I need to be a little bit of work. There was nothing really that with basketball. So my aim was to create a international norm, right? So through trial and error, I came up with 11 disciplines, and what we had was a national kind of trial that was held at Jesse Boo. And we had Carl Brown, Steve Bucknall, Bob Martin, Dave Harris, myself. I think maybe a couple of others. I can't remember. Those are the main ones. And Clive Allen. And basically, I put everybody through these tests. And what happened, right, it's the same one I used at Birmingham Knights. And then what happened, right, is the players had got a score, a minus or a plus score. And he went for, my reason behind it was that if I could do it now, that's a 0, that's average, right? So everything above that in that norm would be a +1, a +2, or a +3, or a -1, a -2, and a -3, depending on what your score was. So what we did is we picked the players based on what their score was after that combine day, right? I think we had 70-odd players for the first day, and I think we had another 30 on another trial down in London. And so, it kind of like snowballed on from there. We got the players together, we worked with them. Like Michael's very good with his marketing. We have from Xbox, Adidas. The kids got the shoes, got the outfits, all that stuff. We had 12 players played in a tournament. Andrea, a coach that team, played in a tournament in France. Won that tournament in France. And remember, we went down. We played against, I think it was the first year of the GB under 20s.
Yeah, in Essex.
And we went down to there and played them down there. And I think, I remember asking a question, why am I doing this? And he goes, well, we know where all the best players are. And I was like, no, you don't. I think that you need to get away from that. You don't know where the best players are, because there's players out there who never got a chance. There's players. I've got players now who I'm working with, right, that people will say, right, is no good. And I'm like, give him 2 years, because you don't know who this kid is. He's a late bloomer, right? But look, I've been around basketball a long time. This kid can play a little bit. But because he's in the system, they're not deemed to be any good. It's bollocks. It's absolute rubbish. There's got to be a way how you can get back onto the system. And that's what UK Elite was about. It's about giving those people another platform to prove themselves. Right, so we ended up having, we had a camp down in, what was it place? Stoke Mandeville. We had a camp down in there. We did a couple of tournaments, right? And it just kind of like ran its course, I think, in the end, right? In the partnership with me and Mike. But I look at it as probably the first real national events that I had an opportunity to shape and to mold to how it was, how I wanted it to be. But it was good fun, right? It was good, and I think as a result of that is where I want to go now with what I do with my building the athlete program and all the rest of that sort of stuff, right? It kind of all like coincides with a whole lot, right? But I think that we've got to get over the fact, right, that let me retract it, right? One of my theories was that you shouldn't have pick 15 players and those 15 players pick themselves. There's got to be 115 players behind them knocking at the door. Until we get to that stage, I don't think you can really say that we're a powerhouse in basketball. You've got to have a much bigger depth of players in each position. I'm not saying you've got to know what they're doing, but they've got to have a skill set, that was my whole thing with the combine. If you may not agree with what's on there. You say, well, what's this rubbish, right? And I'm like, okay, you go get your player to do this and get this score, and then tell me if it's good enough. Because I know if he's making Steve Levin did the 3-point shooting competition, which is the start. Like corner, point, corner, wing, corner, point for 60 seconds. He hit 15 in 60 seconds, right? I dare anybody out there to go and try and do that. There's 2 rebounders, but I dare to make 15 threes in 60 seconds. It is hard yakka. And you have to shoot a minimum of 11 shots. So everything we did at the highest level, right, I put through the top athletes to say, is that too easy? Is that too tough? Is that about right? I spent about a year doing a lot of research, right? And there's things like the Illinois test, the lane agility that I did, like Illinois with the dribble. I put that in myself. You have to put the ball through your legs. So I know putting the ball through your legs is quite hard to do. Not everybody can do that, right? 3/4 spring. I put some stuff that that is traditional, and then I put some other stuff that made sense as a coach and as a player, and I created some stuff that made sense as a player. So, for you to get a high score in that, I'll tell you right now. I know I'm not talking rubbish. For you to get a high score in that, you are skilled. Not only are you skilled, you are fit, because you can't do the two can't be separate. The two have to go hand in hand. So I thank the opportunity I have with the UK League to actually sit down and go through that, create that. And I've got who's the guy that was at Leicester and ended up signing for Bristol. The guard, he went to the States. Stocky dude, dark skinned guy. What's his name? Raphael?
Raf Thomas Edwards.
Yeah. He got the high score. He had originally got the high score right from there. I think he got something like a plus 18 or that and stuff. But he stood out a lot in that way. He's a man child. Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah.
All right, look, we need to wrap this up before 2 hours, but let me just do some real quick fire questions. So try and keep your responses relatively short.
Okay.
So starting with your favourite basketball memory.
Personal?
It can be playing or coaching, just your favourite one.
Playing, Samuel Bath's West Midlands Cup final. Steve Nelson hits 2 free throws to put them up by 1. I get the ball from the baseline, passes to me, dribble to the half line. Steve tries to block me. I score from the half line to win it. Yay!
Amazing. Best British player you've played with or against?
With. British player. With
or against?
Steve, best British player. Sorry, Steve. Peter Scantlebury.
Best player you've coached?
Oh, there's a lot. Kieran Char was up there because once we got over the things he couldn't do, he embraced what I asked him to do. Right, he was good. James Nicholson was an absolute talent. Right, them two up there. Yeah, Carl from Henry was one of my favourites as well. Yeah.
And then removing Brit from it, best player you played with or against that isn't necessarily British.
I will go with or against Ralph Blaylock. Right. Russ Saunders, whose influences me over many years. I learned a lot from him, but Ralph Blaylock, bloody hell, his crossover right or left was nasty, right? And a shout out to Nigel Lloyd, who scored 30 on me in a game when I played for Sunderland, and decided to tell me about my backside and every point. I'm not going to tell you the words that he used, but he was like, Doug, Doug, the whole night. But yeah, Ralph Blaylock. I think because every day in training he was just a handful. I used to challenge him, guard him every day, handful. Yeah. And
then looking to the future, in the next 5 years, biggest thing that you want to achieve in basketball, obviously.
I'll use a generalization. I'd hope that the programs that I create or involved with, right, gives the basketball, no matter who you are, no matter what level you're at, the information that you don't have now. Because be able to go through, you can get anything you want on the internet now, right? But to actually sift through so it makes sense to you, right, is a nightmare. I want to be able to provide quality provision for anybody coming into Birmingham to come to the facilities to use it, quality shoot machines, Verimaxes, the whole 9 yards. You know, we have a training facility in Birmingham that the basketball community can access, and through my programs and events, stuff that anybody can go and use and be as informed as if you were playing in the pros.
Perfect. Makes perfect sense. That's a perfect place to leave it. Dougie, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and all the best for the coming years.
No, man, thank you very much for inviting me. I thought you might have been scraping along the barrel to give me a shout, right? But I've always enjoyed, man. And Sam, I'll say this now, man, right? You keep doing what you do, right? As I say to you other kids, I may not be around, but Uncle Dougie's watching, mate. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.